Hey everyone, today we are going to be talking about whether or not you should become a foster parent. I'm going to be taking you guys through a checklist of things that you can go through to see if you're ready to take the next step in your fostering journey and actually become a foster parent. I know many of you out there are kind of on the fence or thinking about whether or not this is something you really want to do or if you can really do it where you are in your life right now. So I thought this checklist would be really helpful for those of you who might be needing that extra push and that extra confidence to really take that next step in your fostering journey. If you're new here, I would love to have you subscribe. I make all kinds of videos on foster care, adoption, motherhood. I've actually started my journey as a single foster parent. I was only 22 years old, so if you're interested in seeing more about that, definitely go check out my channel below. If you've been here for a while, welcome back. I would love to see a thumbs up on this video if you guys would like to see more content like this. I really do check those analytics and see if you guys like these videos or not so I can know what to make next time. All right, so let's go ahead and get into the video. So the first thing on the checklist is pretty obvious, but you should definitely make sure that you meet your state's minimum requirements. Because if you don't meet the requirements to become a foster parent, then there's really no discussion to be had, right? So every state is a little bit different. So depending on where you live, you will have to actually look up your state's specific requirements. But to give you an idea of the kinds of things that are usually requirements to become a foster parent, it's going to be things like age. Most states, or all states as far as I know, require you to be at least 18 years old. Some states might actually require you to be 21 or even 25. I live in Texas, and in my state, I have to be 21 years old to foster, so make sure that you are of the right age to be able to be a foster parent. If you are on the other end of the spectrum when it comes to age, if you're a little bit older, maybe you're in your 50s or your 60s or even early 70s, and you're thinking if you could do this, you definitely can. There are tons of foster parents out there that come from all different walks of life. There's empty nesters who've decided to become foster parents after their children have grown. There's people who maybe divorced and wanted to have more kids, or maybe they never met anyone and they wanted to have kids through foster care or just help out with a crisis. Whatever your reasoning, just make sure that you are within the age ranges that are allowed in your state. There's never usually a cap as far as how old you are, as long as you are capable and loving and willing. You know, they're not going to discriminate based on how old you are, as long as you meet the minimum requirements. A note about discrimination also, you aren't going to be discriminated against based on whether or not you're married or single, if you're in the LGBTQ+ community, your ethnicity, your race. All of those things are allowed in foster care. The only thing that you might see a little bit discrimination or prejudice against would be if you went through specific agencies. If you're through an agency that maybe is part of a really conservative religion or something like that, then you might have a little bit discrepancy there. But as far as actual state requirements and being licensed through CPS, you shouldn't have any problems with any of that. So if you're worried about the fact that you maybe aren't married or something like that, you don't have to worry about that. Like I said, I started this journey as a single young woman and had no problems. So definitely don't feel discriminated against or worried about that if that's what's holding you back from starting this journey. Another really important consideration when it comes to meeting the minimum requirements is space. Obviously, in order to be a foster home, you need to have a place to live that has room for a child. Now, you might be surprised to know that you can actually foster in something as small as a one-bedroom apartment. In fact, I actually started my journey in a one-bedroom apartment. Now, you are going to be limited as to the amount of kids and ages that you can take if you're in a smaller space like that. But know that you are able to foster in an area as small as a one-bedroom apartment. You don't have to have a huge house. You don't have to have a million extra spare rooms. So just know it doesn't have to be fancy. It doesn't have to be huge, but you do have to have some space available. So make sure you check out your state's CPS website to see your exact requirements for space to become a foster parent. And if this is something that's holding you back, space requirements, then I definitely would see if this is something that's really important to you to become a foster parent. Start making the steps to getting a bigger space if that's something you feel like you really need. Going along with that is finances. Obviously, there's so much to talk about here with finances. In fact, I'm planning on making another video all about affording foster care and really just talking about the exact numbers. But I do want to just let you know, foster care is very affordable. It's really reachable for everyone as long as you're able to make your ends meet and, support yourself. Then you will be fine being a foster parent. Even if you're single and on one income, even if you don't make a lot, all of those things are fine. You don't have to make a lot. When I started this, I was working as a nanny. So finances really don't have to be a barrier here, but you do need to be able to prove that you can support yourself without, any assistance. And that's just to prevent people who are trying to, like foster for the money or, take advantage of a system that's just to prevent that. So, you will have to prove that you're working and, taking care of yourself and paying the bills, but you by no means have to be rich or anything like that. Again, I was working as a nanny, living in a 1-bedroom apartment. So I'm like living proof that that is not something that like has to be a big deal. You don't have to be rich. You don't have to have a whole lot of things to be a good foster parent. All right, so those are the main requirements in terms of state requirements. So as long as you're financially able, you have the space, you're the right age, and you don't have any obvious offenses like, a criminal past against children or something like that. If you do have a criminal history, that's not an automatic, like, no. Like, if you made some mistake in your youth or something like that, most of the time they're not going to reject you for something like that, all right? It's only going to be things that are like concerning, like acts of violence or something to do with children. Obviously, those things are going to be red flags, but other smaller things, petty crimes that maybe happened when you were younger or, you made a mistake in college, whatever the case may be, know that that's not necessarily going to be a barrier for you to become a foster parent. And again, if these things are worrying you, just check your state requirements. Ask somebody. It never hurts to ask. It never hurts to learn more. All they can say is no, right? So you may as well find out. So those are the first step in the checklist that I would recommend, is just to make sure that you're meeting your state's minimum requirements. Now, if you have met your state's minimum requirements, the next step for me to see if you're ready to become a foster parent is to acknowledge your why. Why are you doing this? Do you want to do this? Are you feeling pressured to do this by somebody else who's a foster parent? Is somebody, your church or another organization trying to make you a foster parent? Or are you truly wanting to do this yourself? Are you wanting to help make a difference? Maybe infertility led you to this journey. It doesn't really, well, I don't want to say it doesn't matter, but there's lots of different reasons why someone might become a foster parent. And no reason is incorrect necessarily, but it's important to acknowledge if this is something you actually want to do, because it is a big deal. And that's not to say it's scary. It doesn't have to be scary because it's a big deal. Many things that are big deals are wonderful things that happen in our lives, things like marriages and births and buying a house and all these wonderful big decisions. But just know, like, this is something, it is a big commitment, and it's something you really make sure you want to do. So regardless of what it is your reason, whether or not you're trying to help out with a crisis or you're trying to have a baby because you did struggle with infertility or other reasons, maybe it's your calling, maybe you've seen other people do it and you want to do it too. Whatever the reason is, just make sure that it's something that you actually want to do, because when things get hard, you're the one that's going to actually be going through it, right? So make sure that you have that strong reason that you actually want to do this. So that's my step 2, is making sure that this is actually something you do want to do. Learn as much as you can, find your reasoning and stick with it. All right, step 3 in my checklist, I'm going to call is a reality check. So, a lot of us may watch YouTube videos, we may watch movies, and we may have this kind of fantasy life of like what fostering actually is. And that's not to say that fostering isn't amazing, because it is amazing. I mean, my first placement was this sweet baby boy, and there was nothing wrong with him. He was sweet, he was beautiful, he slept, he played, he laughed. And I eventually adopted him. So I did have like that fairy tale type look of fostering. But that's not to say it's not going to affect your life at least a little bit. Obviously, you're bringing a child into your life, it's going to affect your life. And with that said, I think it's important when you're going through this process to think about the things you have right now and how that's going to change when you add a child to it. How is it going to affect your career and your workplace? Are they supportive of that? Are they going to be okay with that? I made another video about work-life balance and foster care if you want to check that out, but that's something that you should think about. Another big thing is family. If you have other kids in the house, or you have a spouse or a partner, or if you have family nearby, how are they going to react? Are they going to be supportive? Do you have people on your side? Now, if the answers to these questions are no, that's okay. That doesn't mean you can't be a foster parent. It might just mean that you need to find other support systems, or you need to find another career, or you need to make some adjustments. All right, so it doesn't have to be a no thing. Going along with that is just, how is it going to affect your day-to-day life? How is it going to work when you're, commuting? Are you going to drop kids off to school? Are you going to have to pick them up at daycare? Or do you work from home? How is that going to work? So just really plugging it into your daily life and like seeing how it's going to play out, and really looking at it from all angles. Look at it from the happy angles, look at it from the tough angles, and just see how the reality of you being a foster parent is going to work. All right. And that brings me to step 4, which is really just gaining the confidence to do this. I get so many comments from you guys saying, I really want to be a foster parent, but I want to wait till I have a house, or I really want to be a foster parent, but I want to wait till I'm married, or I really want to be a foster parent, but I'm not sure if I'm ready. And at some point you do have to just take the leap. And that's what I did. I did my research. I built up a little bit of a nest egg. I really felt ready and confident and capable, even when I wasn't working a high-paying job. I was working as a nanny. I was in a small apartment, but I could see that there was a need and I knew that I could do this. So if you're sitting there and you're capable and you know that you're ready, but there's something about you that's just holding you back because it is a big decision, because maybe you don't know any other foster parents in your area, maybe your parents don't understand or your friends don't understand, you can do this. And if you believe in yourself and you want to do this, then I believe that you can. So if you're someone who's sitting here watching this thinking like, I don't know if I can do it, just try it. The one wonderful thing about foster care is it isn't permanent. And that sounds hard to say, and I really even hesitate to say this, but it's not. If you go through the process and you learn things there that you didn't like, and you decide you don't want to do this, you can back out at any time. If you become fully licensed and get a placement that doesn't work out, you didn't adopt the child yet, you're not signed in for life, it's okay if it doesn't work out. Obviously, these kids, they've been hurt so much, they do need that stability. They need people who are going to commit and stick with them. So obviously, do not become a foster parent if you're just planning on completely quitting. But I just want to say that just to know that, it's okay if you try it and it doesn't work out. It's okay if you take the leap and it isn't as wonderful as you thought, or maybe it is as wonderful as you thought. I kind of got to that point myself. I wasn't sure how it would be, but I thought that I could do this and I knew that there was a need, so I just did it. And for me, it was the best decision I ever made. And I don't know. So if you're someone who's just sitting there, my advice to you is to take the leap and try. Go to an informational meeting, learn more, start the process, and see where it takes you. All right, guys, that is all for my checklist. It's pretty short. So checking your state requirements, really finding your reason why, doing a little bit of a reality check, and then just taking that leap. And it's as simple as that. If you guys have any questions about this process, definitely check out my channel, and then also leave me a comment in the comment section below. Any questions you guys have a happy new year, and I'm really excited to see what fostering journeys you guys have this year.